unbelievable.
Have you ever been back here since?
Oh, yeah, many times.
You have?
I sometimes just drive right in the gate and come in here and walk around. Yeah.
Do you remember me roller skating up and down?
I sure do. You were getting ready for the practicing. Yeah.
In the bathroom.
That's right. That was fantastic. Never made it in the film, but.
I always remember Lucia down here.
Herb and Al used to rehearse practice right up in that room there. That was the green room.
Was it one of these that used to do makeup or something?
That's right. Yeah. Well, Jack made up in that room there, I think.
This is where the gardeners
On
kept
the
their
end?
stuff.
You did? I'll be darned. On the very end, huh?
David?
No, well,
They kept their stuff and
that,
were really...
that was a car garage. They had lifts and stuff. And but the gardeners had all in here. They probably kept some stuff in there, too.
But I remember just that, when I walked in here, that kind of core of fatigue that was kind of an adrenaline rush mixed with tired that, you know, I don't remember feeling that way ever again, because this was like the discovery of what it was like to make a movie.
That hit me really hard about 74.
Well, this is a place where Jack scared Catherine halfway to death one night because he was waiting right around this corner here, and you came through in the Volkswagen, and he leapt out at you. But this
That took a few years off my life.
makes a certain sound when you drive over it. Remember?
Yeah.
Remember that sound? Well, you could always tell when someone was coming in.
Yeah.
Oh my
I remember for 5 years, this was a different world, you know, at least to us. There was Eraserhead, and it was once you got into the mood of it, it wasn't any place that it really existed. It was this Eraserhead world, and it had its own mood, and you could picture the outside world outside the buildings. They were completely different than what was really here. And
There was nothing else going on.
nothing else going on down here. We had the bed up real high with 250-gallon tanks underneath it. And we kept going, driving up to get hot water, remember? To the main house.
And they were having this big fancy party, and I kept
That
going
wasn't
with
there, yeah. And Jack and Judith were in there for several hours.
In ice water.
In ice water.
No, I kept going and getting hot water.
Yeah, but it wasn't enough. They were freezing. They were freezing. Always in Henry's room, there was a coat rack. And for 4 or 5 years, there was this black raincoat hanging off this coat rack. And so it just like everything in Henry's room existed, kind of getting a little bit dustier every year, but it just, nobody touched anything, and it just stayed exactly the same way. And on the lights, you know, you have these snoots that you can put on, and they look a little bit like top hats. And Jack I saw him kind of working with one of these snoots one day, kind of quietly to himself, and just with a snoot. And later that night, in a kind of a quiet time, he wanders over to this hat rack and puts the snoot on top of the hat rack and starts the Gettysburg Address. And it was one of the all-time classic things I've ever seen in my life. Well, we normally did about 1 shot a night. And both Fred and Herb were painstaking. And we found our what do you call it, rhythm. You know, like after a film's going for a couple of years, you sort of find your rhythm. And it kind of slowed down to 1 or 2 shots a night, depending on, like a master shot would definitely be lighting all night. And Jack and I would rehearse, but I've never rehearsed since then the way we rehearsed. We would rehearse every move, and Jack was like the most expert actor I've ever worked with. He would go into minute detail on arm move, and every single thing was worked out, and every scene was lit with little tiny inky bulbs, and so you had to hit your marks, perfectly.
It took a long time to do it, but also we didn't have a whole lot of stock.
And that's
Remember?
true. We couldn't make mistakes.
We never did like more than 1 take.
No, we did. We did sometimes 4 takes.
Oh, really? Because I just remember
The
that
only
it had to
shot-
be perfect because we didn't have a lot of film.
The only shot we did in one take is the first shot we did, which was the
Oh, yeah.
scene with Mary
And the
and her
hair.
mom and her hair and the blower and brushing the hair on Jack on the. That's the first shot we did. Jack sitting down on the couch and.
I still love that scene.
I love
Yeah.
that
I
scene
just
too.
love that scene.
You know, I watched ERASERHEAD not long ago, like the first time in a long time. And about what you were saying, it was amazing to see it after, a long while. There was not an extraneous move in it,
This is really bad.
Unsafe.
That's a bunch of baloney.
Hell, it was unsafe when we were in here.
It was unsafe how many years ago? This was that big dolly track.
That's where the planet was, right there. And
This
we
was
had,
that Elmac on the dolly.
all it was straight in, Catherine. It was
Yeah.
straight in.
Unbelievable.
There was a point where we'd completely run out of money, and Al had gone to what's that place? in
Scotland.
Scotland, Finhorn, and everybody kind of was doing something else. So everybody was kind of doing something else, and I didn't think the film was ever going to get finished, and so I wanted to build a miniature Henry's room and the miniature sets, and build a little 8-inch tall Henry, and stop motion them to connect the things that we didn't have, and I almost did that just to finish it. Jack and I both had routes. Jack had a route for 2 weeks and had to give it up because it was kind of he wasn't cut out for it. And I'd just be finishing my route, and our routes the tracks coincided at one point. So I see Jack, and I'd be coming around a corner about 90 miles an hour in my Volkswagen, and I'd hold up because I'd see Jack in your father's Pinto, I think, still folding his papers, and I'm ready to go home. And Jack said, Lynch, delivering papers on Wilshire during rush hour is like shooting the rapids.
Yeah, Olympic Boulevard.
Olympic Boulevard. But the worst thing that can happen to a paper boy is toss your first paper, and if it, God forbid, it's a long throw, and realize your window isn't rolled down. And that's like tough.
It really didn't have any effect on our lives at all at the beginning, did it?
No.
I mean, nothing.
I think
Nothing.
I think it was.
We knew they were
It's the
going to line
quietest-
up down the street and around the block at midnight in the rain, and they did. And but nothing. Hollywood
Wasn't interested.
No.
No, I had one meeting based on ERASERHEAD at Universal Studios, and it was like over in about 6 or 7 minutes. And we had smoke. Remember, Charlotte? We had smoke coming out of here. We had these 50-gallon cans with fire in them and fans, and blow smoke out here.
Oh, for
and your
the front
yard, is
Yeah.
all in here.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of food phases throughout ERASERHEAD. There was one whole year that was just egg salad sandwiches.
Really, I love egg salad.
Yep,
I might
egg
go
salad
back to that.
sandwiches every day. A lot of different, certain kind of cereal, just different patterns.
Jack would cook more than
Yeah,
the
Jack
rest
cooked
of
a
us.
lot.
Jack cooked. He'd work on a meal for a long time.
Yeah, I did a lot of cold things.
And Jack and I would listen to the Moonlight Sonata many times, and we'd listen to Wagner at full blast up in the food room.
And Tammy Wynette.
And Tammy Wynette.
We really didn't, nobody really had any money. That was
No.
the one characteristic that we all
That
shared.
unified us all.
Yes, definitely we were poor and
Mhm.
broke. Do you want to talk about Peggy at all?
Peggy, my first wife.
I mean, she was a big part of the start of she was a part of the start of ERASERHEAD, though.
Peggy is one of the greatest people that on the planet. That's all needs to be said. She's solid gold. One time, she gave the thumbs up to Jack when I first brought Jack home, and that's kind of sealed it for me. Not that I needed sealing, but it really helped.
Well, I'm really sorry that Herb and Alan and
Yeah.
Fred aren't here.
Well, at least Fred can
At
be
least
here.
Fred is here.
Right. I remember one time we were at the lab, we were all waiting for Herb to show up, and he was late, always late. And Herb drove in about 20 minutes late, and we said, finally, here's Herb. We're sitting there. And he drove in, and he parked his car, and he didn't get out of the car. So we were saying, wow, what the heck, you know? And then finally he gets out, doesn't look at us, and goes real slow to the trunk. Opens the trunk, gets out a styrofoam cup, opens a bottle of Pepto-Bismol, pours it in the cup, closes it up, puts it back, shuts the door, and starts toward us. And we couldn't be mad anymore. That's Herb. That's our food room right there. And look, they've taken the whole balcony apart.
Yeah.
Oh man, the food room.
We grew our own potatoes up there on that balcony.
You know, we started off having.
That's right, we did.
We grew our own potatoes right up there on the balcony. of the
Jack had a
food room.
potato farm.
And
They were the size of your
when we
little fingernail.
when we harvested them, the potatoes were about the size of little pinto beans. They were little bitty potatoes, pea-taters. You know, little bitty potatoes, but a bunch of them, you know. We took them home and
Did you fry them up?
we made little bitty French fries.
Remember we were just
Little
gonna
bitty
have
French
snacks,
fries.
and then I brought in the hot plate, and then a couple of other things, and pretty soon we were having breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Sure.
In that food room.
Catherine was a waitress and used to bring back treats from the restaurant.
But then
And-
we cooked like
Oh, yeah.
whole meals.
No, I know.
I remember
We lived there
Alan,
for 4 years. We had to
Alan
eat
come in
something.
there and scraping his yogurt.
Yeah, Jack loved that.
You.
The sound of Alan when he hit bottom on his yogurt.
When it was yogurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack used to make a beeline to the green room.
Did you make the first umbilical cords?
I
can't
made
remember.
some of them, and then we used the,
But then we got, I would go to the UCLA hospital and say we were doing a student film. And that we needed these umbilical cords for some specimens or something.
Fresh.
Fresh.
Right.
And after a while, I would go there
Fresh.
every night during that
Fresh.
time. I'd put on the little green suit, stand outside the delivery room, and they'd come out with a jar of fresh billy cords
Yeah.
every night. No questions
never
asked.
never a question.
They just give them to us.
Yeah,
They
we
come
always
back.
had fresh billy cords. That was one of the things that we could count on.
Yeah, I remember that, Jack eating a pizza one time when the fresh billy cords arrived.
Remember the drawer of peas?
Oh, man, the drawer full of peas. You
Stench
said
of those damn things, you know.
the
These
bill.
guys who want to be in the delivery room when their wives are having kids, I don't, you know, I
Jack,
never could
don't go
understand
on.
that. God,
The drawer full
you
of
know,
peas.
they
You
talk about the stench of death. You know, how many books have you read where they talk about the stench of death? But they never talk about the stench of birth, man. God.
And you were in Lost Highway, right, Jack?
Yeah, I wandered around there for a couple of days.
That's right.
Trying to get some stuff done.
Jack's the only person in the film that I had worked with before. Everybody else was, new.
Which is a first for you.
Mm-hmm.
How was it?
It was great.
Yeah.
And now I have a bunch more friends.
That's great.
But Jack was fantastic. Jack sort of got to be in the movie.
You've been in all of them, haven't you?
He was cut out of Fire Walk with Me, but he was in it.
Oh.
And I didn't realize that until someone told me. And
I forgot.
but he did a great scene about 2x4s, and
Oh, yeah.
and then he wasn't in The Elephant Man, but he was in every other film.
But he could have been if he lived in England.
He would have been.
Yeah.
He was going to be the Elephant Man, but that was something that wasn't destined to be. And John Hurt did a pretty good job.
He did a pretty good job. What about bolt cutters?
We should have brought bolt cutters.
That won't work. I've got a knife.
Let's see if there's any very close. No?
I wonder if we could ask the ranger for the bolt cover.
We could just kick it in.
Oh,
That would,
I have a screwdriver. We could take off the hinge.
we could, can you have a Phillips?
Well, no, I just have one on my Swiss Army knife.
No, we need a Phillips screwdriver. Toby, you got one?
I'm not going in
You're not?
there. It's not safe.
We went out and raised money from everybody. Remember when Tom Coulson was in the movie, he had to go to a pediatrician? I went back to that pediatrician and said, can you give us some money for this movie? We got various and assorted friends who had a little couple $100. And to this day, those people
Get money.
get back their investment, which is really, just doesn't happen that often. But also, I think I mean, I don't want to be on my high horse, but that's who I am. But your loyalty paid off in many other ways, which the fact is that all four of us are sitting here together after a lot of years is really because of that.
Well, we had a pretty good time.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
It was the greatest.